Welcome into another episode of the Father, Son, and the Holy Buckeye podcast. I'm Sean. With me, as always, is the father himself, Rob Simzak. Dad, we are a week away from real football being played, but the temperatures seem to still be pushing triple digits, so I don't know how to feel. How are you feeling on this fine Monday afternoon?
Feel like a true New Englander. How do you like them apples?
Oh, yeah, because you now have a little spot in Portland, Maine.
Well, yes, and I've been in Boston since the first of the month. So still don't like lobster, still don't like the Red Sox, still don't like Tom Brady, still don't like Dave Portnoy, but I think that makes me an official New Englander.
Yeah. And there's a few places to spend summer in better than New England. The only other one might be the PNW.
Yep, I feel you,
Got
dog.
it all covered.
Yep.
But this is going to be our final episode before the college football season kicks off. We're going to put a bow on our college football playoff conference predictions today, go conference by conference, and tell you who we see making the playoff and ultimately taking home the national championship. Anything you need to add or get off your chest before we dive in?
Let's go,
today?
man. Let's go. Let's rip this.
Let's go.
Let's rip the Band-Aid off this thing.
Sweet. I want to start off in the Big Ten because that's our bread and butter, and we're going to go a little bit more in depth for the Big Ten than we will the other conferences. And to start, when I look at the Big Ten, I see a pretty clear hierarchy. So I broke the conference into 4 tiers, and I just want to get your thoughts on the tiers that I broke up. The tier 1, I think it should be the most obvious one. It's not only the best programs in the Big Ten, but the best programs in college football right now. It's Ohio State, Indiana, and Oregon. And spoiler alert, these are the 3 teams from the Big Ten that I have making the playoff. And I don't think there's a whole lot that needs to be said about them, but I would first ask if you think there's any other teams that belong in this tier. And second, of these 3 teams, which do you think would be likeliest to drop a tier into tier 2, which essentially means which of these 3 do you think has the best chance of missing the playoff this year?
We are spot on. There's those 3, and there's a gap to number 4. And I think all 3 teams are going to make the playoffs. I think the biggest risk to a team not making the playoff is Ohio State, but I do think, I'm going to go on the record now, there will be a 9-3 team to make the playoff this year. So
yeah, I don't want to spoil too much, but I'm on board with that too. I have the first 9-3 team making the playoff this year as well.
And that 9-3 team could be Ohio State, given the gauntlet of a schedule they have.
Yeah, I would say that if out of those 3 teams, the likeliest to miss the playoff, I'd probably say is Indiana, mainly just because I don't want to put it out there that Ohio State has a chance of missing the playoff because of this really tough schedule. And it's just because we have less proof from Indiana than we do Ohio State or Oregon. Sure, Indiana has more national championships now than Oregon does, but we have seen Dan Lanning put out a perennial contender year after year. So if I look back to 2024, if Indiana had maybe not the easiest schedule in the country, damn near, maybe that was more like an 8-4 team, realistically, depending on if that schedule was a little bit harder. So maybe that is the reality that they come back down to. But like you said, I think all 3 teams make the playoff. So then my second tier, and so these would be, if there is a 4th team from the Big Ten to make the playoff, it's going to be one of these teams. These should all be top 25 teams for at least the majority of the season. I have Penn State, USC, Washington, Michigan, and Iowa. I think Iowa's probably the team that sticks out a little bit, and I originally had them in tier 3, but I bumped them up because they have just absolutely dominated tier 3 and tier 4 teams over the past few years. They bring in Phil Parker as their OC the past couple seasons. He brought tremendous improvement in the offense in 2024, the best offense they've had the better part of the decade last year. I like the reports that I'm reading out of them. It's just like, you know what to expect. And I think at worst, Iowa's 8-4. So that's why I have them in this tier. But same question to you. So I guess first, the team likeliest to jump into tier 1 and potentially make the playoff, and then the team likeliest to drop to tier 3, maybe finish with only 6 or 7 wins.
Dude, I rarely do this because you're almost always right. But Phil Parker is not Iowa's OC. He's their DC.
Who's their offensive coordinator?
The guy from Western Michigan whose name...
Tim Lester, sorry. Yeah.
So I got to correct you before we go too far.
No, very good call.
And so, 2 things. I see your tier. Iowa has to prove they can score 28 points consistently, and the 28-point scoring outburst isn't cause for champagne corks popping in Iowa. If they do that, yes, they are in your tier 2, and they are a dark horse for the playoff because of the quality of that defense. But if 28 points comes on a punt return, a fumble return, and a pick six, and their offense slugs out 100 yards, 8 first downs, and 1 touchdown, they can't do that every week.
I will say they beat Wisconsin in Camp Randall 37-0 last year. They hung 41 on Minnesota. They put 40 on Nebraska, and they put 34 on Vanderbilt in the bowl games. Those were all in the second half of the season. And I think they are trending upwards.
Again, data, you win. I will give you Iowa. I'm going to say the Big Ten's getting a 4th team in the playoffs this year.
All right. Who is it?
I think that team, clearly it is coming from one of those teams. I'm going to say, pardon me, Ben, pardon me, Nancy, I'm going to say the University of Spoiled Children are going to do it.
Wow. I didn't think you'd go there. I did think you were going to say Washington.
Yep. I want to say Washington. Bryce Underwood will tell us how far Michigan's going to go. Penn State has a very easy schedule, but I'm not so sure how Iowa State's roster is going to do in the Big Ten. Iowa has to prove to me they can score in a big game against a marquee opponent.
Iowa's clearly at the bottom of this tier.
Opponent. Hang 37 on a team not named Minnesota.
Yeah, that's why they are clearly at the bottom of this tier. I just felt like they are still head and shoulders above. They're Iowa honestly should be in their own tier. I guess would be the takeaway.
Fair point. Fair.
Between 2 and 3.
It's a good tier. Iowa's a bit of a stretch, but you can stretch because their defense is so freaking good every year. And if their defense would even be better if they didn't spend 40 minutes on the field every game.
Yeah, true. And I'm surprised you have USC as the 4th team. I mean, they are a really trendy pick for good reason.
I could see Penn State being the Miami of the Big Ten and making it. I really could. Meaning their schedule is very manageable.
For me, with USC, it's just the youngest team in college football. Still have questions about their defense. Don't think Jaden Mayava is quite as good as everyone is propping him up to be. I think Washington is going to be the 4th best team in the Big Ten, and I think they're going to be entering those final 2 weeks in November with a real chance to make the playoff. I just don't love the idea of them having to go to Autzen, where Damon Williams played really poorly against them last year. Don't love the idea of them having to make that trip and win that game to get into the playoff. But I would say, so I think they will be the 4th team, but if I had to say the likeliest team to jump into tier 1 and make the playoff, just strictly based off of statistics, like say we simulate the season 100 times, which of these teams ends up in the playoff most, I would go with Penn State. Strictly because of their schedule. If they win fewer than 10 games, I think it'll be an abject failure this year. But I ultimately don't have them going that far because I do think that they're going to drop a game that no one sees coming this year. I think they're going to have a really bad loss somewhere on their schedule that keeps them out. But that brings me to my next question about this tier is which team do you think would drop to tier 3 and have a 6 or 7 win season? I have a feeling you would say Iowa because of those valid concerns around their offense, but I'm going to go with Michigan here, partially because
100%.
Oh, there we go.
100%. Couldn't agree more.
Because my thing with Iowa is
a team that's sub 500 out of that group. You nailed it.
Exactly. Because I know what to expect from Iowa. They might trot out the 130th ranked offense in college football, but that should still get them to a winning record. My questions with Michigan are, first of all, all of these Utah transfers they replenish their defensive front with. Don't know how they'll hold up against the physicality of the Big Ten week in and week out. And with Kyle Whittingham, he's a great coach. He's a big improvement over Sherrone Moore. I don't know if he knows what it's like to be hunted every single week, because props to him for turning Utah into a nationally relevant program, winning a Pac-12 championship, but they were never the cream of the crop in that conference. They were never the ones on the mountaintop that everyone was fighting and clawing to dethrone. And you're at Michigan now. Like even in 2008, their 3-9 season, every single team brought their A game against them and relished the opportunity to beat Michigan. And that's what he's going to be going up against. When they play Purdue, they're going to be playing the best version of Purdue, the best game that Purdue will put out all season. So I just don't know if he's used to kind of taking those shots every single week. And also the reality that you touched on, there's a very real chance they have the worst quarterback play in the entire Big Ten this year if Bryce Underwood goes down the path that we think they are. So those are all very legitimate concerns for me. And I can envision a future where they finish with, 5-7, 6-6, 7-5 territory.
Yep. Yep. Talk to me about your next tier.
So that'll take us, tier 3 then. This is the middle of the Big Ten, and there's a lot of meat here. I have Rutgers, Illinois, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Nebraska, UCLA, and Maryland. I think all of these teams are good bets to finish, with at least 6 wins. The schedule probably won't shake out where every single one of these teams hits that mark, but that's what I see. These are bowl eligible teams who, if they get a couple bounces of the football the right way, if the schedule is nice to them, these teams have the potential to win 8 or 9 games. So that will go to my first question. Which of these teams do you think is likeliest to jump into tier 2, not necessarily, make a push for the playoff, but win 8 or 9 games, maybe sneak into the top 25?
Wisconsin, for sure. I think their schedule's manageable. Fickle figured it out some towards the end of the year. His teams have never been an effort issue in Madison. It's been a talent and injury issue. And to fix that, the team, they're not going to spend $40 million like Ohio State does, but they were spending $4 million when NIL started 3 years ago or 4 years ago, whatever it's been. They spent $4 million. So they're spending more than that. The talent's better. I think we talked a lot about their quarterback from Old Dominion. I think they're going to be solid. Yep. And Wisconsin would be my pick. I think you're also being really, really generous to UCLA and Maryland. UCLA, I think we're betting on the vibe on the coach and the cradle of coaches being Harrisonburg, Virginia. And Maryland, we're just betting on the fact that one day, some of the athletes that they have will translate into W's. It's a good tier, and I see Wisconsin being the team that goes up. And if there's a team or two that slips, it's UCLA or Maryland.
I have the same thing. I wrote down Wisconsin as well for the same reasons you wrote. Like, Luke Fickell might be coaching for his job this year. Everyone's out on Wisconsin. Not a single person's talking about them. I think they'll surprise some people. And then you already touched on it, the team I think likeliest to drop to tier 4. I put Maryland. I don't think I'm being too kind to UCLA. I think there are some very real reasons for optimism this year. But Maryland, again, I think that just comes down to the fact that, they were 4-8 each of the past 2 seasons. If they replicated that again, they'll be back at tier 4. So easy enough there. And that brings us into our final tier, the bottom of the Big Ten, where I have Northwestern, Michigan State, and Purdue. I would say if there's a team out of these 3 that are likeliest to jump into tier 3, maybe even tier 2 and really surprise some people, I would say Northwestern. That's mainly because I just love their coach, David Braun. People forget he brought a team that won 1 game the previous season and then brought them to a bowl win, 8 wins. They're a team that's always a lot better than their talent profile would indicate, always a lot better than their record indicates. They're not an easy team to blow out. They're fundamentally sound. And I like what I've been hearing out of them. Aiden Childs has officially won their quarterback battle, and he's supposedly had a really good offseason. And I just think if this team, kind of similarly to Iowa, if they can gain some semblance of an offensive identity, they should be a good bet to get to 6 wins. So they're the team that I would say can jump. I'm just keeping them in tier 4, mainly because of just the talent they have on their roster probably is lower than any other school in the Big Ten. Who would you say is the best chance of jumping into your
I'd agree. I think we're getting some pretty deep Big Ten deep cuts here. Feel like we're a serious station. I think Michigan State's roster has been gutted. Purdue's still building up. I think I keep forgetting Aiden Childs is at Northwestern, and he has a quarterback coach and offensive coordinator in Chip Kelly, who every Ohio State fan knows the value of Chip Kelly in that role. I think Aiden Childs is going to make people in East Lansing wonder why they're quarterbacking in Northwestern, in Chicago, instead of East Lansing. I do think that's going to happen this year. So they could still be a 4-win team, but I think Aiden Childs is the talents. I think the talent's there. I'm long on him. I think with the right coach, with some talent around him, he's going to take a step forward. Always thought he was a poor man's Lenora Sellers. It just, for some reason, it didn't work for him in East Lansing. I think it's going to work in Chicago.
Yeah, certainly hope so. And at the very least, Northwestern should be a pretty fun team to watch this year. That'll do it for our Big Ten breakdown. So I just have Ohio State, Indiana, and Oregon making the playoff from the Big Ten. You have Ohio State, Indiana, Oregon, and USC. Is that right?
Yeah, Yeah.
Cool. So then
I'm
we
going
can
four
move
Big Ten
into
teams in the playoff. I'm going four Big Ten teams in the playoff. Four.
nice. Nice. I mean, I hope it happens. And we can kind of go through these other conferences pretty quickly. I got two teams from the Big 12, BYU and Texas Tech. I think Texas Tech goes 12-0, loses to an 11-1 BYU, whose only loss would probably be in a close game at home against Notre Dame. And I think at 12-1, they both make it. This is like such a deep league. There's a lot of other teams I could talk myself into making the Big 12 championship game. And at that point, they're just a win away from making the playoff. So I wouldn't be shocked if Baylor, Houston, Arizona, or TCU make the title. But at the end of the day, I do think BYU and Texas Tech are just head and shoulders above the rest of the conference. And I think they get two teams in this year. Who do you have making it from the Big 12?
Again, I don't want to argue with my son, but I'd be shocked if Baylor made it. I would love to say for my bike riding buddy in Charleston, I would love to say Kansas State is going to make it, but I just don't see that. I'd say Tech, because even with the uncertainty at quarterback, even with they're going to be Midwest LSU, Lane Kiffin LSU. They are going to be the bad guy wearing the black hat into every game. And I still think there's enough defense there and enough at the other positions to make it. And I think BYU, and I've already on the record, they're saying BYU is going to beat Notre Dame. So I think that'll, even if they have two losses, I think that Notre Dame win is going to be really important to them. And maybe they'll get, they lost to Tech twice last year. Maybe they turn the tables. Maybe they keep Tech out and somebody else makes it. But I think I like your picks, Tech and BYU. Those are my two
Right
teams.
on.
Well,
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned Kansas State because this is really put up or shut up time for Avery Johnson, their quarterback. I mean, he's the reason Will Howard transferred out of there. He was supposed to be the next big thing, and he just really has not taken a step forward at all since his freshman year.
Yeah, my friend Kent is, there's a reason they have a new coach there. And that coach, Chris Kleeman, wasn't exactly Sharon Moore, but he had some stuff going on, and that's why he's no longer at Kansas State. So I'm not so sure Avery Johnson was getting the best coaching that he could get, but you are spot on. I mean, the people that are, I want to like Avery Johnson. I want to, he's a friend. I want to like Kansas State and say that they got a shot. But again, I kind of feel like they're like lesser quality Iowa. Prove it. I got to see it from Avery Johnson for 12 games. I can't see it.
That's the thing with Avery Johnson. He is a supreme talent with his legs and his arms. You can just tell that he has been lacking good coaching. So there might be something there. But then we can get into the ACC, and I would go out on a ledge and say you're with me here with the way we've talked about the ACC on this podcast. Miami's the only team I have. And I know people are talking about, Clemson could potentially make another comeback. No. I think, get out. Virginia Tech, Louisville, and SMU, I think will finish firmly ahead of Clemson. I will say for Virginia Tech, though, if you look at their schedule, I think they have a 7-0 start is a real possibility. But then they have 3 road trips to Clemson, SMU, and Miami towards the end of their season. So I think this could be just like James Franklin to a T. I can imagine Virginia Tech being 7-0, going to Clemson to face a team as a favorite, and then just face planting like he does every year. So I do think that they might be in the conversation in November, but I can't make it there. And I have Miami as the only ACC team.
I want to agree with you, but I'm going to say the ACC gets 2, and it's either Louisville or SMU. You named it.
Wow.
And
I think Louisville's got a really good chance. I talked about it a couple of weeks ago. They have Ole Miss week 1 and SMU week 3. If they make it through those first 3 games 3-0, it's likelier than not that they make the college football.
I think they're beating Ole Miss.
Well, if you're going to go out on that ledge, then they're in the playoff.
Yeah, I think that's going to carry. And I don't know how they'll do against SMU because that's typically Brian Brom I think they'll look great against Ole Miss.
Yeah. My only thing with Louisville is that Jeff Brom, he always has his teams ready to play in their biggest games, but I feel like he does typically have
I think against SMU, then they'll look completely different. And whether they win it or lose, it's going to be a nail biter, and they'll be like this. But the whole game they'll be wondering, this is a team that just throttled Ole Miss.
Yeah, I just think there'll be a loss against a bad team somewhere along the road that'll keep them out. But I don't hate.
You're probably right.
I don't hate the pick
I'm going
to
go on the record and say the ACC gets 2 in, even though we both think it's the weakest conference in college football
Yeah.
by a large margin.
Absolutely. So then we can get into the SEC. I have Georgia, Oklahoma, and Ole Miss as my picks. I think with Oklahoma and Ole Miss, I think those are the two best quarterbacks in the Big Ten, John Mateer and Trinidad Chambliss. But if you're
SEC, two best
SEC,
quarterbacks
yeah,
in the SEC.
sorry.
Yep, that's
Of
all right.
course. But if you're doing the math at home, I just can't get there with a fourth team from the Big Ten. So that's three there, two from the Big 12, one from the ACC. So we're at six. That's three from the SEC, and then Notre Dame and my group of five school would be Boise State. So that's 11 teams. There has to be a 12th team from somewhere. I can't get a second ACC team in there. I can't get a third Big 12, and I can't get a fourth Big 10. And I think you're right. I think we are going to see a 9-3 team get into the playoff this year. And if it's not Ohio State or Michigan because they got two brutal schedules, I kind of disagree with you. I think it will be from the SEC. I do think that the media machine of SEC favoritism, I do think it carries a little bit of weight with these polls. So I do think that they're going to get a fourth team in. And I think that fourth team, I mean, shoot me now, is LSU. And I hate LSU before Lane Kiffin was there. I hate him more now that he is there. And as much as I hate him, and as much as I know for a fact that he's not winning a national championship there, he doesn't fall flat very often. He doesn't just throw up, just clunkers of a season. I feel like 9-3 is a good bet for him. And Alabama, I thought about putting in there, but they're starting a freshman quarterback, which I'll touch on in a little bit. And I just feel like LSU going 9-3 just makes sense in my head. So they are unfortunately the fourth team from the SEC I have in the playoff.
Well, I think I'd say Georgia is a lock. Well, not a lock.
I'll say they're a lock. They've dominated
I
that
think
conference.
Georgia's, and then you have two. I say they're going to get four. But then that I'm excluding a group of five team. So it may only be three, but it's either two or three teams from this list: Alabama, LSU, Texas A&M, Oklahoma, Ole Miss, Texas. And then if you're going to stick Iowa as a dark horse in there, I'm going to say Mizzou and the Gamecocks. That's your list. There's admittedly some home state cooking with the Gamecocks. But since you threw Iowa out there, I'm throwing Missouri and USC. I think if I had to pick just two in addition to Georgia, I'd agree with you on Oklahoma. And I'd probably go, for old time's sake, probably Alabama. But I do not feel good about that. I think LSU, while Lane doesn't have stinkers, Lane also has never had a whole season where he's the hated guy. He wears the black. I mean, they are going to get SEC road games are hard enough as it is. There's going to be an extreme amount of vitriol thrown at LSU, thrown at Lane. His players are going to have to read it all week. And if they lose on the road to somebody, they're going to read that all week. And you can talk as a coach, block out the noise. It's not like don't turn on the TV anymore and don't read the papers. It's not like that. It's like don't turn on your phone, don't turn on your computer, don't let your roommates tell you what somebody texted or tweeted. Don't let your family retweet it or text it to you. I mean, it's just so hard to block out the noise. I think LSU's going to have a hard time with that. I won't be surprised if they make it. I won't be surprised if Texas A&M makes it. But I think I'm going to go Oklahoma and Alabama. I don't feel good about those picks. And I think what you and I are getting around to is there aren't 12 great teams.
No.
Maybe people will prove us wrong, but there are not 12 great teams.
Yeah.
And we're struggling to, after you get through, I think, the top 7 in the current preseason poll, after you get through those 7, I don't know that there's a significant drop off after those 7. There is.
Yeah. So, and I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think it'll be this year, but if we have another 20 years of a 12-team playoff, there is going to be a weird 2007-esque season somewhere in there where we're going to be staring at an 8-4 team making the playoff.
Probably. But this also, it's harder to predict, I think, in football. Well, it's harder and easier at the same time. It's not basketball. Like in basketball, because they play 30, whatever it is, 30 regular season games, you have so many data points, and no one sits here and tries to project out, tell me the 68 teams that are going to make the field and tell me who's your final 4. because so much is going to change. And only in football do we do it. And you have a decent chance of being right because the rankings matter so much in this deal in a way they don't in college basketball. So I think what we're saying is, eight's probably the right number for the playoff, but we're going to have 12 and soon we may have 16 or 24. And then it's going to be, very, very strange.
Yeah, slippery slope from there. But to put a kind of a wrap on our picks, let's just go through 1 through 12, who we have as in the field, because it might have been hard to track at home. I have number 1, I think, is Notre Dame. I think they're going to go 12-0 this season. I am kind of scared of them. And then I have Ohio State, Miami, and Georgia rounding out the top 4 seeds. That leaves Indiana, Oregon, Ole Miss, BYU, Oklahoma, Texas Tech, LSU, and Boise State as the teams 5 through 12 in that order. And that would leave, again, like trying to figure out the exact seeding is kind of pointless. But if this were to be the order, that would mean the first round games are Oklahoma at BYU, Texas Tech at Ole Miss, LSU at Oregon, and Boise State at Indiana. That would be a pretty electric lineup if we got something like that. But that's how I see the playoff boiling down. Who are your?
Hey, Sean, what are the rules on the non-Power 4 invite to the playoffs?
It's just the 5 highest ranked conference champions. So presumably the four of them are the Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, and ACC, and then whatever the highest ranked conference champion outside of that, whether it's the American Mountain West gets in. And if there is not a ranked conference champion, my understanding would be then that spot is voided and there will only be 4 conference champions.
Okay. All right. So here, I agree with you on most of the picks because of my superpowers and also because of the schedule. I don't have OSU in my top 4. I have Oregon 1, Indiana 2, Miami 3, Notre Dame 4. Notre Dame 4 in part, and now this is all the logic gets kind of weak here because I do think they're going to lose to BYU, but I have BYU ranked underneath them. So that's weird because I just can't see an SEC team not being ranked in the top 5. I have Georgia 5, the Ohio State University 6, Texas Tech 7, BYU 8. Again, this was done. I didn't really test a lot of my logic, so I guess I'm assuming Tech wins the Big 12 again with that. Oklahoma 9, Louisville 10, USC, the University of Southern California 11, and then either Alabama or Boise State 12, which would get you Georgia playing either Alabama or Boise State, OSU playing USC, Tech playing Louisville, BYU playing Oklahoma. So my opening,
so we both have that Oklahoma BYU game.
Yeah, or not. I just don't think my lineup of those playoff games is as good as yours. But in my final 4, I would have Oregon in there, Ohio State, Miami, and Notre Dame.
Oh, wow. I have almost the same. I have Notre Dame, Ohio State, Oregon, and Ole Miss.
Yeah, and I think Ole Miss is going to stub their toes, but we'll see. Yeah. They do have probably the best quarterback in the SEC, and that should count for something. So, or at least in your estimation, the best quarterback in the SEC. And I trying to tread lightly on my superpowers.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I won't ask you for a national champion pick. I will say, so out of my final 4 teams I have, again, it's Notre Dame, Ohio State, Oregon, and Ole Miss. Ohio State might have the best roster top to bottom, but the one thing they don't have, though, those other 3 teams do have, is a legitimate dual threat at quarterback. And listen, we've talked a lot about Julian Sain's legs. I feel better about him extending plays and picking up tough yardage on 3rd and shorts when he has to. But at the end of the day, if you look at the past few national championship winning quarterbacks, Stetson Bennett, J.J. McCarthy, Will Howard, and Fernando Mendoza, they weren't just like making a few plays with their legs. They were legitimate dual threats. And all 4 of those quarterbacks on their playoff championship runs made big time plays with their legs in either the national championship or the key games leading up to it. And that's where I just think Ohio State's missing out. Like, yeah, Julian Sain can probably scramble for 8 yards now, but he's not putting up 100 yards rushing on anyone. And that's what concerns me. I think back to Will Howard on that playoff run. I think about the 4th and 1 run he had against Texas. I think about all the scrambles he had against Notre Dame that set up that touchdown pass to Quinshon Judkins, where he broke out left, was scrambling, 5 defenders converge on him because he had been killing him with his legs all day, and then he just dunks it to Quinshawn wide open in the end zone because they left him alone to go get Will Howard scrambling. And I think we will miss that, and I think that's ultimately why we'll come up short, is just not having a real dual threat at quarterback. And with that being said, kills me to say this, I have Notre Dame as my national champion. I think part of it is the weird feeling from seeing the Knicks finally win a championship. I feel like, and Indiana's winning a championship, and I've seen the Eagles win their first Super Bowl within the past 10 years. So I think along that line, I think we'll see Notre Dame finally host their trophy, because I think that they have what you need. I mean, obviously they have the mobile NFL ready quarterback, but I think coaching wise too, if you think about back to these same national championship winning coaches, like Kirby Smart couldn't beat Alabama for the longest time. He lost in the national championship game. Jim Harbaugh had to resort to cheating to get back to the
Kirby still can't beat Alabama, bro.
He won when it mattered most in the national championship. And then, Ryan Day, obviously, he had to cut his teeth before he really figured it out. I think Marcus Freeman is kind of following that path where he's gotten to a national championship and fallen. He missed the playoff last year. He's kind of had to cut his teeth. I think now he's ready to
easy. This is not a Notre Dame podcast. Let's back off, pump the brakes a little bit. I'm just going to say this. CJ Carr, I think you're overplaying his running skills. I think he's maybe a better runner, maybe than Julian, maybe, but I don't think they're going to have him running a lot. And if he is, I don't think that's good for Notre Dame. And I think Mensah can scramble too. And Dante Moore can move. I think Julian Saint's comparable to all. I do.
Okay. I certainly hope so.
Maybe Mensah might be the one true runner in the group. But I think Julian Saint throws on the run really well. Same position. If he gets a couple of scrambles, he's going to find the equivalent of Judkins wide open in the end zone the same way Will Howard did. I hope I'm right. You're wrong, and we don't have to change this to a
I do too.
Yes. So
great. Well, last little topic here before we move on to our second guest of the show. I just want your Heisman Trophy picks. I'll start. I have my top 5. I'll go 5-1. 5th is actually the surprise. I have LJ Martin, the running back from BYU. He put up over 1,300 yards at almost 6 yards a carry and 12 touchdowns. He's also a legitimate pass catcher as well. And I just think if BYU is who I think they are going to be, like a top 10, 12-1 team, and I think LJ Martin is going to be the engine behind that. And I think that if they're going to be that good, it's very reasonable to think that they'll have representation in New York. And then I got the kind of the usual quarterbacks in front of him. 4th, I have Dante Moore. I just think that in that offense, it's a well-oiled machine. He's efficient, doesn't throw a lot of picks. He's going to put the numbers needed to get back to New York. I have Julian Sayin 3rd. I have John Mateer from Oklahoma 2nd. And then the quarterback I've been talking about all summer, Trinidad Chambliss. I think he brings the Heisman Trophy home.
All right. Well, we have some differences. I got Dante. I'm going CJ from Notre Dame. And this is in no particular order. I am going to succumb to your hype on Trinidad, the quarterback, not the country.
Good.
And so I got him in there. And then I got 2 from Columbus. I got JJ and Julian.
Nice. So you know what? Now that I'm picking Notre Dame to go undefeated and win the national championship, and I don't have CJ Carr in New York, so that seems pretty stupid on my part right now.
Pretty dumb. I wasn't going to say it, but I'm saying it now. It is pretty dumb. Dude, he plays quarterback for Notre Dame. That's like an invitation to New York.
I am really regretting this now, and I don't know. I'm going to take out Dante Moore then. Sorry.
All right. I have Dante, CJ. I would have taken out LJ Martin, but I
want to be different. I want to throw a different name in there.
All right. Well, you be different. I'm going to be more right than you. JJ's making it to New York.
But who's your winner? Was it CJ?
I'm going to go Jeremiah. Jeremiah wins.
Hell yeah. Yeah. I love that. There's no jinxing here. You're safe.
I hope so, God. I'm in a small room in a basement VRBO in Boston. Please, I hope it's jinx proof. Please.
I hope so too. Well, great. That was a good little recap on what we think is going to happen this season. And before we get into our final couple segments today, we have a very special guest. So let's transition over to our second ever guest on the show, Ken Torrence.
Dear listeners, we have a special guest. Kenny T, who's going to rock us so sweet and naturally with his Buckeye history and perfect harmony. So, Ken, before I turn it over to you and Sean, two things I want to talk about. Ken, ladies and gentlemen, and listeners, is probably the only person on our podcast who thought Ohio State was going to win a national championship when Luke Fickell was coach. The only one. So while he's optimistic, he's also well informed. So we got that going for us. And Ken, I just want to know what you're walking into. We were talking about my superpowers with Ohio State football. And I want to, since we mentioned Kenny T, we're going to talk about Kenny G for a second. We're going to talk about Kenny Guyton, the old right-hander. So, Ken, you remember that game against Purdue when Braxton got hurt on the definitive horse collar tackle that should have been called a horse collar tackle but wasn't, and Guyton had to come in? Do you remember that? All right. So, Sean and I are watching that game in New Jersey. Sean is we're both frustrated. So Sean, in a fit of just anger, frustration, it's over, I'm going to go drown myself. He goes into his bathroom, into the shower, and he is punching the walls in the shower. And that's when Kenny Guyton gets on a heater. And I am going crazy. And he comes out, and I go, get the F back in there. You're in the shower until this is over. So I made him go back in the shower. Chris Fields catches, I think, Sean, did he catch the touchdown pass and the 2-point convert? No,
it was Hireman.
It was Hireman caught the 2-pointer, right?
You got
and
a
then
TV
they won it
in the shower.
So he had to stay in the shower, and then we turned it over on downs. So we score a touchdown. They don't. Game over. Sean didn't watch any of that. I forced him to stay in the shower. And what's worse is in our old colonial house, that shower was like 4 feet by 4 feet. It was like something straight out of Auschwitz.
Like I was sitting in an outhouse.
So bad. But we won the game, and my superpower prevailed. So that's what you're walking into. We might be more lunatic than you, but we damn sure didn't think we were winning at Addy when Luke Fickell was our coach. So...
Yeah, that's stretching it a little bit, but they could have. Braxton was the man.
There you go. Sean, where do you want to take this now with our second guest spot ever?
That was a nice little tangent you opened up with, but I would like to formally welcome our second guest of the podcast on, Ken Torrence, longtime Ohio State fan, childhood friend of my dad. So welcome, Ken. It's a pleasure to have you.
Great to be here.
Let's open this up with, I'm assuming, if you thought we were going to win the national championship in 2011, I'm assuming that Ohio State's your pick to win the national championship this year. Would that be the case?
They are indeed. Yeah.
Who's their biggest strength, Ken?
I think they're going to be up against, I think, Georgia.
You think Georgia? Really?
Yeah. I think Georgia's going to be the man of the SEC, and I think the Big Ten's where the Buckeyes are going to beat up the Big Ten.
You do?
Yeah.
So what's your regular season record prediction for Ohio State?
I don't see a loss in there.
I love it. Okay, well,
that's why I'm on, ladies and gentlemen. Puff out your chest and go get your jerseys. Kenny T's in the house.
Let's ground this prediction a little bit. Ken, have there been any seasons since you've been alive where you didn't think Ohio State was going to win the national championship?
No, yeah, for sure. But, I lived through the Cooper days with Rob.
We didn't talk for years.
But, I am a bit of a homer, but I just don't, it's reload every year. Until somebody proves otherwise, they got a shot at it every year.
That's fair enough. But so refocusing to the 2026 season, obviously, Julian Say and Jeremiah Smith are the headline guys. They're the favorites, from Ohio State to make it to New York if we are going to have a Heisman finalist. But give me a player, not named Julian Say or Jeremiah Smith, that you think is going to be most integral to our 2026 success.
Well, I think it's going to be Kenyatta Jackson for me. I think that he's a stud, and he's going to be studlier. And I just think he's going to lead that defense, and he's the key to pressuring, all the other quarterbacks.
Yeah. No, I love that because we actually, I don't know if you've gotten into it yet because it only came out a couple days ago, but my dad and I just went through kind of a whole 2026 preview for Ohio State. We went position by position and we were talking about the defensive line. And obviously, like you nailed it, Kenyatta Jackson is the dude on that line and he's got to be able to get pressure on the quarterbacks because I think, the defensive tackle position I feel great about, but I don't know if there is another defensive end opposite Kenyatta Jackson that we can really rely on to consistently beat, good tackles one-on-one and get pressure on the quarterback, which isn't a big deal if Kenyatta Jackson's, causing all sorts of hecticness on the other side of the line. But if he isn't who we think he is, and if he struggles to consistently get pressure, I think that could be kind of what starts to break the defense up.
The Chase Young effect.
Exactly.
I don't think he's going to be Chase Young this year, but he just needs to be like Adrian, or Hutchinson was from Michigan. He needs to be that good. Chase Young, the Bosa's were in a different level. If he's at that level, if he's playing like Chase Young and he does to like Oregon what Chase did to Penn State, yeah, I'm going to take back what I said about this being a top 5 defense, and you could just put him down for number 1. Yeah. So that's a good call on Kenyatta.
So how about someone more under the radar, someone that people aren't talking that much about, who not necessarily is going to be super integral to our success, but it's going to have a bigger season than people are expecting that, isn't being talked about in the mainstream media as much.
Do you care if I do 2, 1 offense and 1 defense?
No, go. Let's
Please.
drop knowledge.
Well, I think on defense, I think Edric Houston is coming out of the gate to have a big year.
Agreed.
I think so.
Yeah, we talked about him last week, could be potential first-round pick.
We did not give Ken cue cards from our show last week, people. This is just the 3 smartest Ohio State fans on the planet.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, I think Edric, once again, I think this is going to be a pretty elite defense. I mean, yeah, we're losing a lot, but these guys are ready to step up. They're coming in a lot heavier, hungrier. I'm not going to say they're number 1 right off the bat without seeing them, but I certainly think they're going to finish as like a top 4 defense for certain.
Yeah, because that was part of what we talked about on our last episode too, is, statistically it's going to be near impossible for us to even come close to what we did last year just because our schedule is that much better. But if you are just talking about best defenses as far as talent and what they can do on the field, it's really tough to come up with any defense in college football that's going to be tougher to play against than us.
Hey, Sean, when Knowles in the 24 season, did they have their entire defense coming back, or did they lose a lot?
Yeah, they've had like everyone coming back in 24. That was whole JT and Jack Sawyer.
All right, fair point. And the linebackers, and they got Downs. Okay,
Denzel Burke. Yeah, everyone was back.
All right. So I thought it was might be a pattern. Recency bias. It might be a pattern where this defense has just lost a lot, and then just turns out, just to be great because of the talent and the coaching. But as I said in our last episode, I'm long Patricia, very long Patricia. So he's going to figure it out.
Yeah. I think Matt Patricia gives me all the faith in the world in this defense, no matter who's back there. And you said it, like we lost a ton going into last year. It's the same story this year. We recruit at the highest level. There's no position that
and
really,
these guys all
really
want to come out and prove themselves.
Yeah.
They all have higher aspirations, and the Buckeyes keep churning out pro players.
Yep.
Every one of them take every opportunity. So there's nothing but motivation there.
Ken, you mentioned another one on offense.
Okay. That, I think Isaiah West is going to be a stud.
Wow. That's a deep cut. All
I
right.
really do. I mean, he came in heavier. He's put on like 12 to 15 pounds, and, he already was a tank. Now it's all upper body. I mean, I think that he's going to be making some holes and going for the distance. And then, I think that's going to motivate Bo to they're going to be a good 1-2 punch. I just think they are.
Yeah, I agree with you. Cause I know
maybe no, Quinshon and Travion, but they have the potential to move that direction, I think.
Yeah, because I know my dad's very big on Bo Jackson this year, but I'm kind of more in your camp. Not that I'm low in Bo, but I think this is going to be like a 50-50 split. I think they'll both end the season within 50 yards of each other. I don't know if either of them will get over 1,000 yards, but we could have both of them running for 900 at 7 yards a carry.
Plus, that guy is always smiling, that big ear-to-ear grin on Isaiah.
If they don't, Sean, I'm going to say this: if neither one of them gets 1,000 yards, it's because Jacoby Jackson steals a lot of yardage from them. He's going to be better than C.J. Donaldson was. That's going to be. I'm going to go one deeper cut than Ken. I think Jacoby is going to be better than C.J., more consistent. You said it in our last show, Sean. I think he's going to lead this team in rushing touchdowns this year. But I think if you have between the three of them, I think you could have 2,700 yards rushing.
Yeah, that would be ludicrous.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and you may have like a Bo 1,000. 27. I hear myself saying that and breaking that over 12 games. That's a lot of freaking yards. But 25. I'm going to revise it down to 2,500. But because I could see 600. 900, 500. I absolutely could. And I know that's not 2,500, but you're going to have other garbage yards, and Sam's going to get some. But I think those three guys, 2,500 yards. That's my hot take for this episode with the Bexley High School hot take. Is 2,500 yards for those three guys.
Yeah, but I like the thing with Isaiah West too, which I didn't realize until recently, or I didn't remember until recently, was that he tore his leg up in senior year of high school and he missed that whole year, and he might not have even been 100% last year, and he was still, I feel like, able to finish runs a little bit better than Bo. He's obviously got the vision and the wiggle, but I think just physically, Isaiah West really jumps out a little bit more.
Yep, and I'm hearing he's healthier than ever.
Well, that's the season we're in. Everyone's in the best shape they've ever been in now.
My inside.
Yeah. Well, except for the did you read that today, Sean or Ken? The starting tackle for Texas has a bone bruise and doubtful for the season opener for Texas.
Well, he's a pussy then. A bone bruise is something you can play through. That's all just pain.
And that's the season opener, or that against Ohio State?
No, the opener, whatever pancake they play, cupcake they play.
The Western Texas School for the Deaf, probably.
Yeah, well, come on. We're playing Ball State. Come on. You got to be fair.
Respect the Mac. Come on. Maction, baby.
So he is, I think, something wrong with his knee, and he's doubtful for the first game of the year, which means he could be doubtful for the Ohio State game, which means Kenyatta hopefully will feast. So I don't know how we got on that, but because we were talking about Isaiah West. But anyway.
Brings it full circle.
All right. Yeah. Sean, where to next?
I wanted Ken to kind of give his thoughts on a debate that we were having on our last episode. We were talking about kind of the target and catch distribution behind Jeremiah Smith, because it's very different than the wide receiver room we've seen over the past decade, where really we only have 2 or 3 guys playing and catching passes. Now we're going to have wide receivers 2 through 6 are all pretty even. We should see a big rotation between them. But we were talking about who's going to be the second leading receiver in terms of yards, catches, touchdowns. I'm a big Devin McQuinn guy. I'm pretty high on him. I think he's the most complete receiver outside of Jeremiah Smith. But I could also see a scenario where, like Chris Henry starts off the season really slow, but explodes down the stretch, has a couple 100-yard games in the playoff to become the second leading receiver. So I just think the pecking order behind Jeremiah Smith is really hard to pin down. So I'm curious what your thoughts are on, that the deep but largely unproven group of receivers that we have behind Jeremiah.
They're all going to be incredible, but I kind of agree with you. I think Chris Henry's going to be a huge coming out of the gate. We're not even going to miss Jeremiah when he's gone.
Wow. That's big. All right.
I just think that we're just so stacked there that.
All right.
And it keeps.
You guys are both sleeping. So what, do you like Brandon Inniss, or are you
no, I'm totally counting on him to be the man. Really, I think he needs to be. He's the captain.
Yep.
He needs to step into it, and that guy he's hell on wheels too, Am I allowed to say hell?
See,
Wow.
I guess I'm in the minority here. I'm not holding my breath to see a big year from Brandon Inniss. I hope it happens. I love him. I would love for him to turn into an NFL prospect. But I said this in our last episode too to my dad. He reminds me of JSN if JSN blew out both of his knees.
That's just so cruel. That is mean, and you need to stop being so mean. I'm just saying.
I mean, he can prove me wrong anytime he wants. I would love to see it.
Yep.
He will prove you wrong.
Counting on it. But I really do think that Chris Henry's going to be just the next. And then you got Jet rolling into town after that. It's like,
yeah,
the
rich get richer.
Yep.
Another question I had for you. We can get off of Ohio State a little bit, but I found it interesting. A preseason top 10 team has finished unranked in each of the past 3 seasons. It was, I can remember now, USC in 2023. I know it was Clemson and Penn State last year. And I'm forgetting who it was in 24. I think it was LSU. But I'm curious, out of the preseason top 10 that's come out this week, who do you think is likeliest to finish the season unranked?
And meaning unranked out of the top 25?
Yeah, completely out of the top 25. So we had Ohio State, Oregon, Notre Dame, Georgia, Texas, Indiana, Miami, Texas A&M, Ole Miss, and Oklahoma.
I don't think Indiana's going to survive the Big Ten.
Wow.
Like everyone thinks.
You're really thinking...
I don't think they're coming back with
their toe.
Yeah, they're not coming back with what they had before. I mean,
all right. I think it's going to be, of those 3, it's the bottom 3. It's A&M, Oklahoma, and Ole Miss. And frankly, it's Ole Miss, or for me, it's Ole Miss or A&M. I know you love Trinity Chambliss, Sean, and these are kids, so I don't want to hate on them. And A&M just hasn't done it consistently. They haven't done it 2 years in a row since I've been watching college football. And that is a true statement. A&M has not.
Yeah. No, Texas A&M is the easy pick here for me. And I hear you about Ole Miss. Like, I have been high on Ole Miss and Trinidad Chambliss. Like, I have them. They're in my Final Four if I had to pick them today. But I also think out of all these teams, they are up there with the likeliest to be unranked. Like, new head coach, they're replacing a lot. Their defense wasn't very good last year, shouldn't be great this year. And yeah, the magic could run out with Trinidad Chambliss. I'm not betting on it, but completely realistic. I would throw Texas in there too. Like, I mean, we talked about this a little bit of our last episode. There's not a whole lot of aspects about this roster that really scares me. My dad's been talking about how Steve Sarkisian is, if this season doesn't go well, he's kind of on the hot seat. And I could see a situation where 2 early losses kind of just spiral into 4-5. So I wouldn't be shocked if Texas is sitting at 7-5 at the end of the year.
I will say two additional things about that top 10. One, I think Miami is probably a lock for the playoffs. I don't know how good they're going to be, but they play in the ACC, and they're not going to be any worse than 10-2. And I think frankly, if LSU was in the top 10, I would say I would take LSU to miss the playoffs over A&M and over Ole Miss. And I think part of that's driven by the fact I can't stand Lane Kiffin. Frankly, I'd rather Texas Tech play Ohio State for the national championship than see Lane Kiffin do anything good on the Bayou. So that's the way I feel.
Fair enough. I'm on that train. I don't have a high a lot of people are really high on Sam Levitt. I don't quite understand that. But I think my dad might have cut you off before, Ken. Did you have any thoughts on the top 10 you wanted to jump in with Texas or anything?
No, I agree with you. That could be an easy spiral out of control if old Arch gets shaken and loses his confidence, and it wouldn't be hard for the entire Longhorn Nation to lose their confidence in him then.
Yep.
That could happen. I'd love to see Miami not be in there, but
for obvious reasons, they play in the ACC.
Yeah, they're going to be there for sure.
They're going to be there. I mean, who SMU, Sean, who can
Mario has that football team prepared to play. So,
I mean, I've grown to like Dabo, but I don't see it at Clemson.
You've grown to like him?
I mean, I have. I think I have.
He's the only Ohio State fan in the world to say that.
Yeah, but I'm such a
he must ride a bike or something. Got to.
Yeah, I'm wearing my spandex right now. Blood's not getting where it should go, but okay.
So Ken, obviously You already said Ohio State's your national championship pick this season. Who do you think will beat in the national championship? And I guess who might, if you want to go as far as saying who you got playing in the final weekend in the semifinals. I'm curious who you got.
I mean, I don't even know how that would all shake out, but I see Georgia being in the Final Four. I see another Big Ten team, maybe Oregon even still being in the Final Four. And then I just really don't.
Miami?
Do
you see? I know you don't want
Miami, maybe Notre Dame, I'm just hoping.
Notre Dame.
I'm hoping for different.
I would pick Notre Dame.
Yeah, I'm high on Notre Dame. I think there's a really good chance they're going to be undefeated and the number 1 seed going into the playoff.
What's their schedule look like?
Not hard. I mean, they're the substitute member for the ACC. I know they do play Miami, but other than that, I don't think they got.
They play BYU.
They have a road trip to BYU. Yeah,
we've called that one. That they're going to lose that game.
Yeah, but outside of those 2 games, their next toughest games are either hosting SMU or playing Wisconsin at Lambeau. Maybe a road trip to UNC, but Bill Belichick might not even be coaching by then. So yeah, it's a 2-game schedule. They got Miami and they have BYU, and both are in the second half of the season. So they got plenty of time to ramp up.
I think that Wisconsin game is going to be close. And Ken's out in Utah working right now.
I was just thinking BYU. A lot of youth.
Yep.
So, last couple of questions for you, Ken. Want to move more to just kind of Ohio State history. I have what I think are kind of the clear top 4 plays in Ohio State history. You have the Holy Buckeye play to Michael Jenkins to beat Purdue in 2002. Yep. You have Maurice Claret's strip after Krenzel's interception in the Fiesta Bowl against Miami. You have 85 yards through the heart of the South in 2014 against Alabama, and Jack Sawyer's scoop and score against Texas. So I want you first, am I forgetting any? Is there a 5th play you would add in there to round out the top 5? Because I know there's a lot of other great plays. I just don't know if there's any that are at that level.
I like what you got, and I have, you want me to rank them?
Yeah, let's hear it.
All right. I will rank them last to first then. I absolutely love all of those moments in Buckeye history. And all of those I witnessed. So
live? You witnessed them live?
Not all of them live. Trevor and Dad were down at in Arizona and watched the Natty for that one.
Miami game.
I had to watch it from home with my boys in Oviedo, Florida. But it was great. No matter where you sat, that was a great night. I think number 3, you've got 3 of them here. The Holy Buckeye I'm putting as number 3. No offense. I love you guys.
Well, that would be number 4. We had Holy Buckeye, Maurice's strip, 85 yards, and the scoop and score from Jack.
Sawyer's scoop and score.
So I go, the Holy Buckeye saved the 13-0 season right there. That was it. That was important. But then the scoop and score after that was that was a good one, and for all the right reasons. You know what I mean? Just the fact that he got to beat up his roommate and take the ball and go home with it. It was awesome. I really love that one. But the best was the strip sack by Maurice. I mean, that was such a heads-up play. That saved the Natty. And I just remember seeing that and just seeing seconds before that, I'm like, what the? And then all of us, took that loaf of bread and ran with it. That was awesome.
Sean, can I take a crack?
Yeah, please.
I would go, because it was an extraordinarily heads-up play. I'm going with the Claret strip sack of, what was it, Sean? Who was the
Sean Taylor.
Sean Taylor, one of the great safeties whose life ended tragically. I would take that as 4. I probably even missed the play live for a lot of reasons, as Sean knows, one of which could have been turning on another episode of Blue's Clues for you, Sean.
No, you were out in the closet, like shaking, like, no, please.
No, I wasn't actually. I actually saw the game, most of it with my eyes semi-open, but I was near the TV and I was so pissed when the interception happened that, that it was a great turn of events, but I put that 4. Holy Buckeye, in my opinion, has got to be in front of that, because you don't have Holy Buckeye. You don't have that interception without Holy Buckeye. Then I'm going 85 yards through the heart of the South, because all year that season was about wait till they play Bama. They're not fast. They're not physical. They're not strong.
Yeah.
They don't play SEC-style ball. And then him just torching them for 240 or whatever it was and putting the capper. That's two. And then Sawyer scoop and score just because I was so ecstatic when it happened. And a little bit of recency bias. So that's my top four.
That's good. Can I insert one more quickie?
Yeah.
Just, I'll never forget it. It's the frickin' JT Barrett first down in Harbaugh's face. It was like the moment.
I thought you were going the JT Barrett pass to Marcus Baugh against Penn State.
No, my favorite.
Barrett.
See, I was going to have that JT conversion in there, but it was, for me, it's more of like the 3-play sequence. But because before that, we had like a 3rd and 8 where they gave Curtis Samuel like the swing pass and he reverses field, almost is at like midfield, and then he almost picks it up. Then we have that conversion, and the play after that is Samuel cuts it back. Ohio State wins.
Yeah.
So it was hard for me to like determine which of those plays was really the play, but I mean that sequence is up there, and we could sit here for another hour and talk about all the.
I was
great
looking
plays
through
in
the
Ohio State
binoculars
history.
right at Harbaugh's face during that play. That's it was
this far short.
This far.
So actually, that's a good segue. The last question I want to ask you, because I was very blessed that I was at Ohio State as a student from 2015 to 2018. Those were the seasons I watched. So I was in the stadium for the 2016 game, the double overtime, 2017 Penn State, that great comeback, 2018 where we dropped 60 on Michigan, and then a couple years after that, my dad and I went to the bowl game against Clemson in 2020. Justin Fields dropped his nuts into Dabo's mouth.
Yes, he
So it's those are like easy for me. My 4 favorite games I've ever been to for Ohio State. I'm leaving out 2011 Wisconsin. So I guess those are my 5 favorite that I've been to. What are your either single favorite or a couple of the favorite Ohio State games that you have witnessed in person?
They're all Michigan games. They just are. I mean, I've been at so many of those in the big house and in the shoe. None of the ones that we lost. I've always had fun at them, but yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
So
the first one that my wife went to, and we met up with you all of you.
That was the 16 game, right?
That was the one where Curtis Samuel.
Yeah, the Brooklyn Dagger.
Yeah, Dagger. So that one probably, just because Beth was with me and got to experience that firsthand for the first time.
So Sean, that was the game. What Ken is referencing on the night before that game. Jake was with us, met us out. Ken did eating feats of strength, for lack of a better term. Stuck one chicken wing on his mouth, and then without touching it, pulled it out of his mouth about 2 seconds later, completely devoid of any meat. Bones bare.
That's my man right there. Are we sure Ken's not my biological father? That's my move.
I tied the bone in the knot with my tongue.
So that's what he's referring to.
Well, great. I mean, this was a blast. I don't have any other questions for you before we sign off. Do you have any either parting words, final thoughts on the Ohio State season, the college football season? I'm sure we'll have you back on, but any parting words for us?
Well, Ken, I want to ask you, like, before parting words, what they're not going to blow everybody out 62-12. So what's going to be, what in your mind, when you look at this schedule, I've said to Sean, there's no empty calories on it except for, Ball State and Kent State. Who's going to be the toughest game they play this year?
What game are you most nervous about?
Hardest game is probably going to be Oregon. I don't think Texas is going to be.
I think you're going to see. I said to Sean the other day, so you can check my enthusiasm here. I said I think this is going to be the season where we're going to be kind of. The games are going to be when Ohio State doesn't have 500 yards of offense and 40-plus points, we're going to be kind of pissed, even if they win. I truly believe that.
And we're back. Sorry, a little technical difficulties. Ken cut out before he could leave, but thank you to Ken Torrence for joining us on this show. And before we get into the post-game spread and wrap this up, I just had a few news tidbits. I had some quarterback battle updates and a few Ohio State updates to share with you, Dad.
Yeah, let LFG, baby.
Let's go. So, quarterback battles. This has been a week of a lot of starting quarterbacks across the country being announced. We'll start in our second favorite team in the country in Piscataway. Rutgers.
Yeah, baby. Are you?
But it did not go the way I thought. I was really pulling for that kid, AJ Cerise, from New Jersey, but Dylan Lonergan beat him out. He will be the week 1 starter. And if you remember, Dylan Lonergan was at Alabama for 2 years before transferring to BC last year. Started the season as a starter, but then got benched, had a couple bad turnover games. So he will be the starter week 1. They kick off next Thursday, actually. Florida also announced their starter. Georgia Tech transfer Aaron Philo beat out redshirt freshman Tramel Jones Jr. after getting pushed, I think, more than anyone else was expecting. Aaron Philo has been the primary backup at Georgia Tech over the past couple seasons. Tennessee announced a true freshman will be starting week 1 in Faison Brandon. He's starting over redshirt freshman George McIntyre. Brandon was a 5-star or a high 4-star, depending on what service you looked at. He was a consensus top 10 quarterback in this past class, 6'3", 225. It'll be interesting to see what he has. Clemson named their starter as well, redshirt junior Christopher Vizina. He's starting over true freshman Tate Reynolds. And I think it's pretty alarming that a 4th-year player got pushed to the final week of fall camp by a 3-star true freshman. Part of the reason why I'm not high on Clemson, but, prove me wrong, Dabo. And then Iowa, they will not announce their starter until game day, but everything I'm reading seems like Jeremy Hiklinski, that smaller Moxie quarterback, is going to run away with the job. And then finally, Alabama, they announced redshirt freshman Keelan Russell will start over Austin Mack, who was the primary backup last year. I think Keelan Russell has more talent by a wide margin, and I don't think Kalen DeBoer would be putting him out there and really risking his whole career trajectory if he wasn't ready. So I would take it, if I was an Alabama fan, as really good news that DeBoer sees Keelan Russell fit to be the starting quarterback. And if you look at their schedule, it starts off pretty easily and slowly ramps up. They have Eastern Carolina, Kentucky, Florida State, South Carolina, which is sneaky, and then Mississippi State. But they should be heavily favored in all those games before they start off a gauntlet of a stretch of Georgia, Tennessee, Texas A&M, and LSU. And so I think it's really good for Keelan Russell to get some relatively easy starts under his belt leading up to that stretch. So watch out for Alabama. I mean, you have him in the playoff, and I don't think that's a crazy take.
I don't think it's
any
crazy.
thoughts on those quarterback battles?
They have, they have wide receivers, and they have what's his name, the guy who was for a while was as good as Jeremiah was freshman year, and he's back. So assuming Kalen DeBoer doesn't hide him under a rock again this season, Kalen DeBoer can coach offense. So
yeah, I think their offense is going to be a lot better than the past 2 seasons because he finally has his quarterback who can run and make plays outside the pocket, but also I don't know if you've seen any videos of him. This dude can sling it. He's got a beautiful release, and he's the type of dude that can throw it 80 yards with a flick of a wrist.
Well, you didn't mention one quarterback that I thought for sure you were going to mention. Week 1 opponent.
Oh, I meant to. I made a mental note to mention him, and
the dude, his measurables are bananas. So, do you want to talk about him for a little bit for the listeners?
I believe his name is Keldrick Luster, which is a pretty sick name. He's what? Was he 5'10", 225?
No,
250?
5'10", 240. 5'10", 240.
Shit.
Yes.
I mean, I'm going to hope we kill him week 1, but I'm going to be rooting for him every week.
And he played high school football with Riley Pettyjohn. Yeah. So Riley Pettyjohn's the dude can bring it.
I hope our linebackers are ready to tackle. Go low if you have to.
I mean, he's got Cardale Jones' weight in a 5'10" frame.
It's crazy. And I love the name Keldrick Luster. That's such a cool name too. So yeah, I mean, hopefully we shut him out, but you will not see a bigger Keldrick Luster fan the rest of the season than on this podcast. That's for sure.
Keldrick, have a good 11 games this year.
Yeah, please. And then just a few updates out of Ohio State. We named our captains. 7th time in school history, we're going to have 7 captains. It's Julian Sayin, Jeremiah Smith, Brandon Ennis, who also got the Block O jersey to the surprise of very few. And then Kenyatta Jackson, Jalen McClain, Peyton Pierce, who surprisingly, James Laurinaitis accidentally let it slip that he got the most votes out of anyone, which I mean, was surprised, but also must speak volumes about kind of the way Peyton Pierce is leading this defense. And then Austin Seierveld was the 7th. And I also thought it was really cool if you watched the video where Ryan Day is announcing the captains to the team. Like, Jeremiah Smith, he had a tear going down his face when he was brought up. You could see how much it meant to him. And I just think that's the coolest thing in the world. Like, what future top 5 pick actually cares that much about being named team captain? Like, he is just so team first, loves Ohio State, and just like seeing his reaction to being named captain is just another reason why when he finally hangs it up, he will most likely get his name in the Ohio State Mount Rushmore.
There you go. You know what? Also today, I think, to kind of prove how smart we are, and particularly you are, I think we know who the starting offensive line is going to be.
That was taking the words out of my mouth. That was another thing I had. We finally started to get some offensive line clarity from Ryan Day. He didn't formally announce the starters, but he did say that Seierveld has stayed at guard and will stay at guard. So if he's not going to tackle, I think that it's safe to assume Ian Moore and Philip Daniels will be our tackles. Then a few other sound bites. The Jay Timmons hype in that defensive back room is not slowing down. It's like the more I hear him be talked about, it sounds like he might be a day one starter. Ryan Day also talked about how he thinks the wide receiver position is deeper and more complete than last year. And he's continued to praise Luke Fahey again, this time really praising his preparation and his composure. So now I was on the other side of you originally saying, like, I think he's just trying to give Luke Fahey his flowers, maybe trying to kick Tavian in the butt a little bit, but praising your presumably third string quarterback's preparation and composure like that, I feel like he is maybe taking shots at Tavian, and maybe he isn't developing quite as well as we would like to think.
I agree. I'm a little bit concerned about Tavian Sinclair, but I also
it's a 2027 problem.
Yep, hopefully, and Brock Boyd continues to get shouts.
Yeah, no, he's been only getting more first team reps as camp goes on. So
yeah, he is going to have an Anthony Gonzalez moment, and I hope he has many of them in Austin. That's what I hope.
Yeah, no, I'm on board with that. My last two things. So I'm not sure if you saw, there's been a bunch of players that are, or rookies, like undrafted free agents that are being cut.
This thing, it gets me almost rage Rob the Rage Machine is going to come back. Just keep doing this crap, NCAA. Like this, come on. Well, you can't be in an NFL roster and then next week you're playing for LSU. Stop it.
Yeah. For our listeners that maybe didn't see, there was an Ole Miss tight end who got cut by the Browns, I think, and now he's enrolled at LSU and will play this year. And he's not the only one. And Ryan Day was asked about this, and he was pretty much like, I hate it. I don't think it's good for the sport, but I'm not going to let Ohio State fall behind. So it was interesting. It sounds like he obviously hates this idea like he should, but if it does become the norm, if every season we're seeing dozens of players come back from NFL rosters and every other team is scooping them up, it does sound like Ryan Day is going to be like, well, I'm not going to not do it just out of principle. I'm not going to like it, but I'm not going to let us fall behind. So I thought that was the right reaction to have. And
he chose the Izzo response to effectively having pro players in college. I mean, there are pro, so what's the difference? But you're trying to make
insane to me too that these same players they got a check for being on an NFL roster, however small it was. Then they're coming back to school and making probably 5 times as much money with NIL. Like, it's just, there's so many levels to how stupid this is.
This is dumb. It angers me. But let's get off it. So Rob the Rage Machine only
simmer down. My last note was actually about the Basket Bucks. We got a new commitment to finalize our 2026-27 roster from Argentinian forward Lee Aliyah. Again, not positive how to pronounce his name. He's like a 6'9" forward, looks super athletic, like a monster in the paint, and just, something to keep an eye on. I think he still has to get some exclusions from the NCAA to actually play this year, but it was an interesting commitment, late pickup that I think some people may have missed.
They also might be getting still somehow Christopher Tilley.
Oh yeah, because I think he's trying to fight to get his eligibility back.
5-5. Again, Rob the Rage Machine. I'm going to tamp it down, but that's another ludicrous thing. But there's a strong likelihood he comes back and he's either not on scholarship or they cut somebody.
Yeah.
Or redshirt someone or something like that. And not that redshirts really count for anything anymore, but there's a lot of talk that Tilly's coming back.
That would be great. I mean, we need as much help in the paint as we can get. And it's while we're on the topic of basketball, I don't know if you saw Michigan. They were playing some scrimmages overseas. They played Lithuania's A team, lost by 20. The next day played their B team and lost by like 10. So maybe the downfall of Michigan basketball is coming sooner than we thought.
You could. That roster's too good. They'll get it together.
Yeah. We got plenty of time to talk about basketball. I just want to throw that out there and just reinforces that I am more excited about a basketball team this year than I have been probably since Thad Matta's been here. But that'll do it. All my topics. Any final thoughts before we get into the post-game spread?
Post-game, let's spread it, baby.
Let's spread. I would question the phrasing.
Yeah, that probably is not a good way to transition.
But this is the post-game spread where we each share something we're enjoying in our lives that we want to share with each other and our listeners. Dad, what have you been enjoying this week?
The pleasure of your brother's company, my daughter-in-law's company, and my granddaughter. But that's what I've been mostly enjoying, as well as your mother's company. But because I have superpowers, coming home from New Hampshire yesterday afternoon, I heard certainly from the period, one of my favorite songs, but just a great song, Superman by REM. And because we've talked about superpowers, I figured that was your hook. So Superman by REM, just a great kind of, they call it jangly rock, but I kind of think of it as like the 80s version of the Beach Boys, just with the harmonies and all the background sonic effects. It's a great song. And one of their best among a number of really, really good songs and albums, Superman by REM. And then if I haven't talked about it before, just the wonders and joys of the Euro. I love it. To me, there's not a bad Euro. I've probably talked about a Euro before on this show. But give me the Euro from the place around the corner from Aunt Mare in St. Pete any day of the week. I could eat 3 of them a day. I'd still and do it for a month. I'd be happy.
Oh, yeah, no. Euro is a thoroughly underrated food. And actually, like on that same topic, I think the most underrated food in the world is a good empanada.
I understand where you're coming from. I probably haven't had enough empanadas. You know, here's my problem with empanadas. I'm a glutton. I'm a pig. So if I'm getting empanadas, I need like a solid dozen to be safe.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, of course.
So, and I just, they're at like $2 or $3 an empanada, to get a solid dozen. You're like, all right, you're already up to, $35 or $40 in empanada bill. And it's just like a Euro's somewhere between, the Euro at Aunt Mare's is preposterous. It's the size of a small double wide Florida trailer home. And it costs like $6 and it's packed with meat and it's packed with tzatziki. $6. And it is actually, Sean, you eat one of those and you're like, nah, I could eat 2, but I would feel gross about myself. One, You're feeling, that's good. I can stop there. Maybe have a little Greek salad or something like that to go with it, or a lentil soup. And then I'm completely full. But I don't need, 12 euros from that place. I'm going to need 12 empanadas to feel sated.
Yeah.
To there.
But for me this week, I mean, transparently, with football approaching, I've been gearing up for the college season, the NFL season. I got fantasy football drafts going. I'm getting married in less than 4 weeks. Work's busy as always. So I don't have a lot of time for extracurricular activities at the moment. But there is a band that I've recently discovered that definitely strays from, I feel like on this, we definitely talk more about like kind of soft rock or country folk we've been talking. This is very different from that. This is like more hard rock. It kind of reminds me of a cross between like the Black Keys and Tame Impala. They're called Balu Brigada. It's 2 guys
yes,
from... know them.
They're good. Yes, I do.
Yeah, they have this album out earlier this year called Portal.
They're good.
And they got a lot of bangers, and they're really, I mean, it's good driving music, good workout music. And I don't know if they're brothers. I need to learn more about them. But I wanted to throw out there because I'm really enjoying.
All right. Well, so you were talking bangers, and then I'm going to ask you a question. But what about any of Jack White's new stuff over the last year, 2 years. That dude he freaking jams, my man.
Yeah.
He shreds. And it is, for anybody looking, he should be the artist anybody from 18 to 70 loves, because his stuff, some of it is vintage 70s, heavy bass, shredding guitar, angry vocals, going to take down the Catholic Church or something else. And he's just doing it, man. And I don't know. Anybody that can record an album with Loretta Lynn and Seven Nation Army has got my vote. Is just the disparity there. You talk about somebody that brings it and has bangers and shreds. Jack White and Babala Bagada, I don't know a lot about, but I hear them a lot, especially the last month with Sirius, driving a gajillion miles up and down the East Coast. Sirius is on, so I've heard a lot of them. Can't tell you one song title, but I love every song I've heard.
Yeah, great. Well, I think this will do it for this episode of the Father, Son, and the Holy Buckeye podcast. Any parting words for our listeners, Dad?
Yes, life is short. Go for a bike ride.
I'd push back and say life is short. Spend every fall weekend sitting and watching football, because it'll be gone before you know it.
Okay, I still say life is short. Go for a bike ride.
Or go for a bike ride and then watch some football.
That's what I'm going to do every Saturday.
I love it. Well, beautiful. Thank you, anyone and everyone that's out there listening. It's been a pleasure, as always, Dad, and hope you and all of our listeners stay safe. And next time you hear from us, college football will be kicked off, baby.
Yeah, baby. Thank you, listeners.
Yeah, thank you. We'll catch you here next week.